Yeah, I have a problem with what I hear going on television when sports pundits and sports shows are talking about Coach Prime in Colorado football. Yesterday I was watching Undisputed, and I I heard Skip Bayless in the panel. They were talking about the football experience at Colorado and how they have a 4-5 record and they're one game below 500. And Skip Bayless referred to his wife at home when he's watching the game, and the wife walks across the room, and she looks at the score and she sees that the Colorado Buffaloes are losing, and she says, "Oh, I thought they were supposed to be good." And then, you know, Skip Bayless is saying that that's the problem. People thought that Colorado were just all of a sudden supposed to be good after being 1-11 last year. And they keep going on and on. But the problem I have with their commentary, especially from everybody else on the panel, Keyshawn Johnson and Sherman, I think, what's his name? The cornerback that played for Seattle. He's on the panel as well. The problem I have with them when they talk about it is that they don't ever go into the details of why things are the way they are. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem with social media. That's a huge problem with mainstream media. It's a mainstream messaging that's always going to be predicated on information that's on the surface. It's never going to dig deep. And if you ever try to dig deep, if anybody tries to dig deep, either that person becomes quote unquote controversial, or that person ends up being suspended for saying something, or that person ends up being made to give an apology. You can't speak truth nowadays. There's a narrative that's made, and you have to go with that narrative. I would like for even Shannon Sharpe that comes on First Take, and I know he and Prime are good friends. If being an analyst, a sports analyst, is your job, Sharpe, you're going to have to speak the truth. It doesn't mean you have to end your relationship with Prime. And this is where things get kind of sticky. You start convoluting the friendship dynamic with your job dynamic. It's your job to speak the truth. And I don't hear anybody talking about the decision making of Coach Prime at all. It's just he's always viewed as a sympathetic figure, as a figure that needs our pity, and as a figure that needs our grace. The grace part, I understand. Everyone needs grace. We all need it. No one's perfect. We get that. There's a level of grace that's needed, that's afforded to everybody. That should be afforded to everybody. That would be the best practice in our human-to-human relationship dynamic on this earth. However, with saying that, I don't agree with the way the information is being handled out there from mainstream media about Coach Prime. I need them to be a little bit more critical, and I need them to actually be constructive with their criticism. Don't critique off of emotion, injecting implicit bias, especially if you are a Caucasian and you already have an implicit bias toward the black experience. Try not to. Just be aware and be aware of that. Be self-aware and be intentional about not inserting commentary that utilizes your implicit bias, which could also be borderline racism, because consciously some people are, covertly racist, but they use the opportunity to chastise or bring somebody down. They use that as a way to covertly hide their racism. So they'll just hate on Coach Prime just for the sake that he's a black guy that's quote unquote flashy. I need all of us to be aware of that and not do that, and just talk about Coach Prime just from a football perspective. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not racist against Coach Prime. I'm black. How can I be racist? I don't hate him. I just get frustrated at the things that I see. He's 4-5, and not once did I hear the analysts on Undisputed talk about why they're 4-5, how they started off. No one's talking about the elephant in the room of how pass happy that team is. It's just, oh, they were 1-11. He's won 3 more games than last year. Again, that narrative is misleading. Colorado football was 1-11 last year with different players. The only thing that's the same from last year's team to this year's team is the team name, Colorado Buffaloes. The entire team, the players on the team, 99.9% of the players are different. So you can essentially say that this is a different football team than Colorado Buffaloes. This is not the same team. It's a different team because the entire makeup of the team has totally been revamped and it's changed. And then you have a man by the name of Deion Sanders, a.k.a. Coach Prime. He did mention it. He said it himself. He brought his Louis luggage. He came in with hype and confidence and a degree of arrogance. He did. We saw the press conference when he talked to the old members of the team, telling them that, hey, some of you guys won't be here. I brought my Louis luggage. And now all of a sudden, people have kind of pulled back from the expectations, and now we're giving him a pass, saying, oh, it's his first year and this. Yeah, we understand it's his first year, but we also know what his intentions were. You don't revamp the team just to win 3 more games. You don't revamp the team and say that you're bringing in Louis luggage. Bringing in Louis luggage means that, number one, there's going to be an overhaul, and number two, there's going to be an overhaul of better players. So meaning that the overhaul is going to take away the bad players, and you're going to come in with better players, and you expect to be better than the 1-11 team, which they are. But with that being said, let's keep everything in context. They're 3 games better than that 1-11 team. But are you going to sit here and tell me that their record couldn't be better than what it is, 4-5? They've had winnable games that they've just lost. So I don't think Prime came here with Louis luggage to lose, to be on the losing streak. I don't think that's what he intended to do. And I just find it very disheartening that on television, no one's criticizing Coach Prime at all. I don't know if people are afraid, maybe the backlash, maybe because he brings in so much money to these networks that no one wants to say anything. But I feel that all types of controversy is good because controversy drives ratings. If you have people speaking out against it, it stirs up the conversation, and it opens public discourse to allow people to actually have an honest debate, and people end up becoming enlightened from the different perspectives that are being brought to the table. But if everybody's just like, oh, it's Coach Prime, he needs an offensive line, it's his first year, it's more than that, folks. Read between the lines of what's going on that football team. There's favoritism going on on that football team. There's a divide in that locker room, believe it or not. The players don't believe the way they believed before. Not because they believe the team is bad. They're starting to lose faith in their coach. Why? Because they understand that their coach is not putting them in the best position to win. Look back at the Stanford game. Look back at the other games when they're just pass heavy. Look back at the fact that he demoted his offensive coordinator, Sean Lewis, brings in a co-offensive coordinator to actually decide what plays to run, and yet you guys are running the same damn thing. Nothing changed. And when pressed with a conference during the post-game conference, a reporter asked Prime a question. We thought we were going to see something different. You didn't think, did you think about utilizing your, and I praise, I don't know who this reporter was, but the way they phrased the question without disrespecting Prime was excellent, because the reporter pretty much was saying this. I'm going to paraphrase it and tell you what I think the reporter was essentially trying to say. The reporter was essentially saying, look, man, nothing changed. You switched coordinators thinking that something was going to be different, and yet your son was still getting hit. Nothing changed. I thought you were going to do something different by adding in an extra back, an extra fullback, a halfback here or there, or bringing in an extra tight end to help chip block. I didn't see any of that. And you know what Coach Prime's response was to that? I think it's better that we have receivers. It gives us a better chance. Really? So things like that. No one is talking about. See, to be a true reporter, you have to be objective, even though you may have an affinity towards a particular player or a particular person. I love Coach Prime. I love what he's doing. Like I said, I love what he's brought to Colorado football. But because I love that, I'm also going to have a healthy hate for anything that violates that potentiality of what Colorado football can be. I know when he first came how it started. I know how he talked about the Louis luggage. I like the fact that he had the hype, the music in the locker room, the celebrities. I loved that. I love the fact that recruits wanted to go there. All I needed now, or all we needed now, was for all that hype to be matched with competence. And what I see happening is that the hype is here, but the competency level is very low. So there's a disconnect with that. And there's certain players that see that. There's certain smart players on that team that can see and they can read between the lines and they can see exactly what's going on with Coach Prime and this football team. How favoritism is being played on the team, overwhelmingly on the side of Shedeur, to be just pass. Coach Prime is smart enough to know that the running game is critical on any football team. He played for national championship teams. He played for Super Bowl winning teams that ran the ball. So I don't understand why he comes to Colorado just abandoning the running game with great running backs. It's one thing if you didn't have good running backs. You have good running backs, utilize them. You may think that the offensive line is not that great. I understand it. But sometimes if you have a good running back, the good running back can make up for the deficiencies provided by the offensive line. How many times have we said how sometimes great running backs can make an offensive line look good? And vice versa. We've had situations where I've seen great offensive lines that have made any running back that's plugged in back there look good. Remember back in those days, those running backs for Denver Broncos, that zone blocking scheme, you could just plug and play. Clayton Portis. They had Davis, the Hall of Famer running back. They had Anderson. They would plug in another running back there. He would get 1,000 yards. It was just plug and play because the offensive line, the offensive scheme was built to run the ball. If Coach Prime was smart, Coach Prime, you already knew your son was a great quarterback. There's nothing that you needed to do on that side of the ball. You already had the weapons. What you should have done is hire offensive coaches and assistant coaches that can devise a great running scheme. And then predicate your offensive scheme because you knew your offensive line wasn't that strong because it's your first year. You need, quote unquote, those dogs, right? So the scheme can make up for the lack of skill. So if you have a good scheme, it's like Princeton basketball back in the days, and they would play in the NCAA tournament. Princeton would upset some teams because they had this scheme, this offense, this motion offense that would just lure people to sleep, and they'll do all these back cuts and all this stuff, and it just frustrated people because people were so used to people trying to go one-on-one. But this team, Princeton, they would just pass and cut. They'll run the play clock down to like the last 5 seconds before they shoot the ball, and that wore on a defense after a while. So I think that what Prime should have did, I know everything is in hindsight now, but it speaks to the video game mentality of Coach Prime. It's not a video game. Your quarterback is set. Most college teams wish they had competent quarterback play. You already had that coming in, which was part of your Louis luggage. The next thing you should have done is hire coaches that can build your team a great running game, and then predicate your pass off of the running game. Because now when you do play action, it's touchdown. When you do play action, it's over. It's a wrap. You do play action, you are going to be a successful team because teams have to honor the run because you've built a strong system internally first and then outwardly. Great teams are built from the inside first, Coach Prime. And you know this. I'm preaching to the choir. You know this. But because of your affinity towards your son and the love you have to have your son succeed by any means necessary, it clouds your judgment. I don't know. But I don't like what I see from the TV media. No one's critiquing or criticizing Coach Prime for what he's doing. And that's why when many of you go to YouTube and you hear people like me talking and you perceive it to be hating or negative about Coach Prime, it takes you guys are offended. You guys want to call people haters. It's because the mainstream that you're getting, which is actually brainwashing you and indoctrinating you, the stream of messaging that you're getting from the mainstream media is warping your mind and fixing your mind to a certain narrative. And then when you hear something opposite, it kind of shocks you. It shocks you neurologically. You're like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He's stupid. He's hating. Not hating. Look at the points that I'm making. Watch the games. Listen to the press conference. Watch what Coach Prime says and what he does not say. Listen if he takes accountability totally. Or is he just saying, oh, put it on me, and then he moves on to the next question? What do you mean put it on you? What did you do specifically? Name it out. It's powerful to name out your faults. We talk to kids like that all the time. We tell them, when you make an apology, just don't say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what? You have to put a name behind it. That's true acknowledgement and true identification of your flaw, or i.e. flaws, Coach Prime. So they have to start this nonsense about, oh, it's just his first year, give him time. And then they entertain the idea on the Undisputed if this guy would want to go to the NFL. Number one, he hasn't even proven himself on the college level yet. The only thing that Coach Prime has proven on the college level is hype. And he just brought attention. What he's done, he has brought attention to Colorado. He's done that. Marvelous job of that. I give him credit for that. Great. He's an entertainer. He's made college football more relevant than it's ever been. I'm watching Colorado games every week just to see what's going to happen because of Prime. That's it. In terms of proving himself in wins and losses on the football field, he has not done that yet. HBCU and the Power 5 conferences are two separate beasts. So before we start entertaining the idea of him going to the NFL, are we dumb? Are we stupid? So you just be an entertainer, and you can be a coach. Just be an entertainer, and you could be a president. But I believe that's how society is shaped. We are moved with our emotions. Anybody that tickles our emotions, we love them. We put them in places to just elevate them. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger can become a governor of California, because he's an actor. He acts in movies. That's why Kanye West can entertain the idea of being the president, and people actually say, yeah, I'll vote for him. What the hell are we doing? Coach Prime is not ready to coach NFL players, even though I know he said it himself that he's more comfortable with coaching young men than coaching grown men, because he said something to the effect on a show. They actually took an excerpt of the interview that he had on, I think, I forgot the guy's name, the show that he was on. And Coach Prime said, yeah, I couldn't, because I'm coaching men that probably make more money than me, and then they'll go in. He didn't say that part, but that was one of the points that Keyshawn Johnson made. But he talked about how he'll go into the locker room at halftime with 53 players and come out with 32, because he can't coach players that don't have a passion. And he knows that there are a lot of NFL players who are just there to make their check and go back home. And I understand that. However, I still think that he can consider the NFL when he hasn't even proven himself. He can't even prove to make in-game decisions. He can't even prove to manage the clock. You guys keep wanting to put the blame on the offensive coordinators and the defensive coordinators. No, it's on Coach Prime. It's what he says goes. Those three pass plays inside their territory, you think that was the offensive coordinator's idea? No, it was Coach Prime's idea. So again, I'm disappointed in mainstream media how they're covering this. And so when people like Jason Whitlock and myself and others are speaking objectively, you guys are offended. You guys think that we're hating. But if everybody was actually being objective, you guys would actually understand what's going on. All right, we'll see what they do this game. We'll see what they do this next game. All right, stay tuned to other posts that I'm going to be making. I'm going to be making more videos. Anything that I hear, I have one more article to also read to you guys. It was another article about Coach Prime. I'm going to read it. I'm going to break that down to you guys, and I want you guys to comment and give me your take about what you think is going on with Coach Prime in Colorado football. All right, thank you guys for listening. All right, bye.